Okay, I'm not going to do the countdown because I have to set that up. So I'll edit this out, but we're recording now. So, and I can edit this bit out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just remove you for a second. You can still hear me. Is that right? Can you still hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay. Right. I'll just cut you off for a second while I do the introduction and then I'll introduce you. Okay.
Okay, David.
Hi, and welcome to another one of my podcasts. Today, we're going to be talking to Nicky, and Nicky's moved out to Melilla, however you like to say it. I think the Spanish say Melilla. So, hi, Nicky, how are you?
Hi,
Can you hear
David.
me okay?
Yes, thank you. I'm fine, David. Thank you.
So, how do you say it, Nicky? How do I pronounce it correctly?
Well, I believe
Melilla?
it's pronounced Melilla.
Melilla.
So
Okay,
the two L's
fine.
are pronounced as a Y, so Melilla.
Right, so you're just to let people know, it is Spain. It's part of Spain, but it's actually on the north coast of Africa, pretty much in front of Malaga, and it borders Morocco. Am I right in saying that?
Yes, that's right. We're a Spanish autonomous city, as is Ceuta. There's two on the north coast of Africa. Yeah, we're surrounded on all three sides by Morocco, and obviously then we've got the sea in front. So
Sure. So, Nicky, how long have you been out here? Or out there, should I say? How long have you been out there in Spain?
Well, we moved out here in 2017 in July. So I've been just nearly 4.5 years now here.
Right. And from where exactly did you live?
Well, I was born and brought up in Milton Keynes. But for the last few years before we moved here, I'd moved in with my partner, who's now my husband, and he lived in Abingdon on Thames. So we're from Abingdon on Thames. That's where we moved from.
And he's Spanish, is that correct?
Yeah, he's Spanish. He's from Barcelona, but he was on a Spanish education abroad post, and he got 9 years in the European school in Culham, in Oxfordshire. So we met in his first year that he was there, but in the end, he ended up doing 10 years. So we were together 10 years in the UK. And then his next post was in Melilla, so he had to come back to Melilla, so I came with him.
Lovely. So
we got married we came back as partners, but we did actually get married after a year of being here. We got married.
Lovely. Right. So was it a Spanish wedding or English wedding or mixture?
It was a wedding in Gibraltar. We wanted to get married in Spain. We wanted to get married in Barcelona. But it was quite difficult, really, because I think you need to be resident 2 years. He was okay after a year of being resident because he'd been out the country for 10 years. So even he had rules as well. So he had to be back living here for a year. And then we could apply, but it was just going to take so long to apply and go through all the rigmarole and everything. And I'd need translators and everything. And it's very difficult in Melilla because not many people speak English. There's not many English speaking services either. So I would have needed translators and things to all do it. So we just gave up in the end, and we went to Gibraltar. It was much easier.
Sure. So come on, Nicky, how's your Spanish?
My Spanish is awful. Absolutely.
How can that be, being married to a Spanish person?
We've been together 14 years, and I go and see his family all the time, and I have done for 14 years. So even when we was living in England, we were in Spain a lot, and it's just awful. I'm 54. I was absolutely awful at languages at school. I did French for 2 years, and they almost threw me out at 14 and said she was useless. So I'm not very good. I mean, I can understand quite a lot now, but the speaking it, I just lack confidence. And if I do it wrong and they don't understand, then that's it. I don't want to do it anymore. So that isn't the way. And in Melilla, it's very difficult. They don't get very many English speakers here, so the accent is a problem for them. So even if I do speak a bit of Spanish, they don't seem to understand me.
So how do you occupy your day? What do you get up to? Do you work, or you got any part-time work?
No, well, I was a nurse in the UK. So when we moved here, and because because I couldn't speak Spanish, I wouldn't even dream of being a nurse in another language. It would just be impossible. So I don't work. My husband works still. He's a teacher here. So when he's at work, I do all the cleaning, all the shopping, all the housework, that sort of thing. Go for walks. It's a very simple life in Melilla. It's only a small city. It's only 4.7 square miles. So you can walk around it and do lots of walking and exercise. We go to basketball. Melilla in the Leboro, second division. So we go to the basketball. We travel a lot as well to the mainland. People from Melilla get the plane to the mainland like we would get the bus, in the UK.
Excuse me, I've got a fly. It seems to want to land on my nose every 5 minutes. So the boat from where you are to Malaga, just tell us a little bit about that, planes and boats, how to get over there.
We can only, the border's been closed since COVID. It shut in March 2020 because of the COVID crisis. But before that, when the border was open, you can only go into Morocco. We could go across the border. People from Melilla can just go in with their identity card and cross the border. I needed my passport. We used to go to Morocco quite a lot, but the border's been, but we could only go over on the land. You can't get boats from Melilla into Morocco. And we have got an airport with a plane, but you can't fly into Morocco. So even when the border was open, if you want, you can only cross the border over land, if that makes sense. Yeah. So we've got the plane and it only goes to Spain. And it goes to several places in Spain. When we first arrived, it only really went to Malaga and Madrid. But now they've got plane trips to Seville, Malaga, Madrid, Granada, Barcelona, and Gran Canaria in the summer. And I think that's everything, actually. And Almeria, you can fly to Almeria there. And the boat goes.
Sorry, as you know, we've got an airport right here where I'm living, and we see the planes coming in from that direction. And also we have a boat in Almeria, a ferry, but I think the ferry's not running at the moment, but it's about 8 hours from here. And a few years ago, before the virus kicked in, some of our Spanish friends used to do like a weekend trip over there and were telling us about it. And we were planning on doing it. But then obviously with the restrictions cut in, we've put that off. But definitely going to come and check it out one day.
I would encourage everybody to come. It's a unique place. It really is. And it's well worth coming. I mean, it's a different thing about living here. It's a little bit isolated, quite small place to live here permanently. But for a trip, I would recommend anybody to come. And you can come from all those airports. Like from Seville, it takes 40 minutes on the plane. Malaga, probably 20 minutes. Almeria, 20 minutes. The boat's a little bit longer. You can get the boat from Melilla to Almeria or Malaga, as you said. And you can either get the slower boat that takes about 7 hours. A lot of people get that overnight and sleep on it. Sure, you can get the speedboat with Valeria, I believe it is. And it's we went on it in the summer and it was about 4.5 hours, 5 hours on the boat. Yeah, but the plane's the quickest route. It's only a small plane. It's only an 80-seater propeller plane. So that's quite an experience as well. But it is a lovely trip. And the last time we were on the boat, we came from Almeria and we could see the dolphins in the sea. It's a really nice trip if you get the chance to do it and come.
Yeah, we get a lot of dolphins here actually off the coast here. Yeah. And there's a main road that runs along the coast here to the airport. And quite often I've seen them jump out. The first time I shouted out to my wife, look, there's dolphins. She thought I was crazy. She's Spanish. She's lived there all her life. She's never seen them, but there was dolphins jumping out. And
we saw them and I was screaming, quick, get the camera. By the time you've got the camera and set it up, they've gone, haven't they? But
yeah, and they had some pilot whales here. It was on the news a little while ago that fishermen filmed, and they're like 20, 30 foot long. These whales they're just slowly working their way up the coast. So yeah, we get quite a lot of that. But
we had that a couple of years ago. We had some whales, and the Guardia Civil took pictures out at sea of them, and it was amazing. I've got a video of it that the police shot, and it was really interesting.
But earlier you said to me it's a bit cold today, and so you think, what is the temperature there at the moment? It is a bit colder. The temperatures have dropped.
It's 13 today, which is quite unusual. Yeah, I mean, I think
You wouldn't want to be in the UK at the moment then, because where my brother lives in Brighton, they're saying it's 8 degrees and they're talking about it dropping to 2 or 4 degrees by the weekend. So yeah, 14 is not too bad.
No, we're all Spanish now, aren't we? We think that's cold. 13. 13 is quite cold for Melilla, actually. I mean, we don't normally get it any lower than about 9 overnight, and that's in the deep winter. So it's quite nice, the temperatures here.
So Nicky, what made you move out to Spain in the first place? Was it something you were thinking about for a while, or was it a spur of the moment thing?
No, because I met my partner. I was just happily going along in England working as a nurse, and my partner, he moved over with his job. He got a secondment at the European school, and he was looking for friends, people. He'd arrived in England from Barcelona, didn't know anyone. And he says he didn't join a dating site. He said he joined a site looking for friends, but he was on match.com and I was divorced and I was on Match, and we met. And he said he couldn't speak much English, but his English was quite good then. And then we met, and obviously we carried on. And he said to me, in 9 years' time, I've chosen to go to Melilla, because they do a set amount of time on their secondment posts and then they come back to Spain. And he said, I've chosen to go back to Melilla. Well, I've never heard of Melilla. And the whole time he kept saying, during the time we were together, he kept saying, well, I'm going to Melilla. And I'd never been. I didn't know anything about it. I just decided I wasn't going to live there. I wasn't living in North Africa. But anyway, the time ticked on and it was time to come. And we came over in the May of 2017 to have a look round. And I was quite upset, really, because I thought, oh my God, it was such a culture shock. That's why it's important that people come and visit Melilla, because it's like Spain almost 40, 50 years ago. It's the old Spain. I think you'd like it, David, from what I can tell.
I've seen lots of pictures and stuff that their friends have taken and that. And I fancy coming over. As you say, it is quite, but we've got a lot of Moroccan influence in Almeria as well. So, there's a lot of bars and restaurants down by the port area, and some of the fruit and veg comes over from on the boat. We have the local markets here, and there's actually some guys that come over regularly to do the market at the airport here. So they bring over, they're from Morocco, and I've seen them sometimes down at the port, having a coffee and a drink in their Moroccan type bars. And we did go to a bar, or I don't know if you call it a coffee house, whatever, and had the Moroccan tea and the ceremony.
Yeah, the mint tea. That's if you come to Melilla and you ask for a tea in any of the coffee shops, you'll get a mint tea. That's what you get. And it was funny because we came back. So his job ended in England, and he said he'd only stay in England if he got a university post, and he tried, but it's very difficult to get university posts. So we came, we moved here, and it was funny because in the early days we'd go to the coffee shops and we'd say a tea, and we'd get this mint tea. And we kept going, no, we want a normal tea. And they go, yes, this is a normal tea. It was a mint tea. So be careful if you come to Melilla and ask for a tea, because you need to ask for a tea negro if you want a normal tea. Other than if you ask for just a tea, you'll get this Moroccan mint tea.
I think the tea with the British people, and I know like myself, I buy Tetley tea bags, which I buy online because it's cheaper that way. I buy them in a bag of 75 at a time, sort of thing. But my wife makes tea, and she's often bought what she calls English tea, but it's absolutely nothing like English tea at all. Even though it says English tea on the packet, it's not, And I think the milk doesn't help as well. It's a different type of milk, but yeah, a proper cup of tea is quite hard to get here in Spain.
No, it's just a mint tea here, and it's got all the leaves in it, and you get a mint, all the mint leaves filled up with hot water, and then they give you a little glass to decant it into. But it's really, really sweet. My husband always asks for it with no sugar, but you ask for it with no sugar and it still seems to be really, really sweet. But people love it. They love the tea here. I don't particularly like the mint tea, but
we were served with a little piece of cake as well. I don't know whether that is normal. It comes with the tea, a little piece of cake.
We get the free tapas. You talk about the free tapas in Almeria. We still get the free tapas in in Melilla as well. It's actually really reasonable to live here because we are not in the customs union in Melilla, and we don't pay VAT either. So and our tax rate's between about 10-12% here. So things are really cheap here.
So what do you pay for example, if you went out for a beer or a wine, a glass of wine, what sort of prices are you looking at in euros?
Well, we don't drink that much. My husband doesn't drink much, and neither do I. So, but if we go out, we can go out for breakfast. Like we went this morning, I met my husband in his gap at work because it's very popular. I don't know if they do this in Almeria, but in Melilla, everybody goes for breakfast between 10 a.m. and 11.
Yeah. Right.
Everything. If you have a builder in or an electrician or the shops, everybody seems to go for breakfast between 10 and 11. And because it's cheap, they all go to the coffee shops and they have the mint tea, they have churros, they have the bread with the tomato and the oil.
Yeah.
So I met my husband. Yeah, it's really nice actually. And I met my husband this morning and we went for tea, and he had coffee, I had a soft drink, and he had some churros, and it came to €2.50.
€2.50. Yeah, that's cheap, isn't it? That's cheap.
It's very cheap, and we can get churros for two. Well, the big porous, and chocolate and a litre bottle of water for €5 here. If we go out for churros, and the churros are really good.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've been a member on the group for a while now, I see, and I've seen you post of where you are, and it looks fantastic and everything. But Nicky, for other people that are thinking about moving to Spain, what sort of advice would you give them? If they're from the UK and they're thinking about moving to Spain, what sort of tips and advice would you give somebody? Anything particular comes to mind?
I would say if you can't speak any Spanish, I think it's very important to choose your area very wisely. I mean, I don't speak hardly any Spanish, and I have really struggled in Melilla, and it's been quite isolating for me. I mean, luckily I've got my husband, so he translates everything and he sorts out all the things we need to do. But if you move to an area in Spain where nobody speaks, you need to do your research really and make sure you're going to be able to get by, because I mean, if you can get translators and interpreters, of course you can, but that could work out quite expensive. So, and I mean, to some people, they don't mind that. They like to be fully immersed in Spanish life and culture and everything, but you still have to get by, and you can't just assume that all people are going to speak in English. I think that's one of the tips.
For me, when I first came here, I was probably like a lot of British people say, "Oh, I'll pick it up when I get out there, and it won't be too much bother, and I'll soon learn." But like taking your car to get it MOT, or ITV as they call it here, when I first did it, I didn't have a clue, and there's no way I could do it on my own because they put a walkie-talkie on the windscreen, and they talk you from a booth, go forward, turn left, turn right, put the indicators on, the handbrake, brake lights, things like that, and it's just basic Spanish. But if you don't understand it, and it's coming through a walkie-talkie, so it's all gurgled, So in the end, I had to pay somebody €35 to take me to get the car MOT, which at the time was €35. So it cost me double each time. So that really pushed me to get some Spanish behind me. But then also it's the daily things like getting your light and electric put on, or when you have a problem with electricity bills and things like that, you have to phone up a call center. Unless you can speak pretty good Spanish, you need somebody to do it for you. In your case, you've got your husband, so it's perfect. But a normal British couple, they're going to have to pay somebody to do that. So this can be expensive if you're doing this on a regular basis. So this is why I always say, even before you come to Spain, start learning some basics, some basic words, like costs and numbers and things like that, and directions and things that you're going to use on a daily basis.
Especially now, because I think people are having to sort out visas and things now, aren't they, and put a bit more planning into it than they did before. So while you're planning, I would go to Spanish lessons. I really would. I would enroll and do intensive Spanish lessons if I was in the UK now waiting to come to Spain. Especially, I mean, I've got lazy. It's not really an advantage having you probably know with your Spanish why. It's not an advantage because you can get lazy because they can do it all for you. So, it doesn't push you.
With me, we don't speak English in the house. So I only speak English when, it's funny because I had an English friend passed by a week ago or so, and he came here for coffee, and he spent the afternoon here. And I kept making the words in the wrong way. I kept putting in the odd Spanish word, and I hadn't spoken English for so long, and it was a bit awkward. And I said, I'm sorry, I can't remember what's I got. And I had to ask my Spanish wife in Spanish what the word was in English, and I couldn't remember. I went, oh yeah, that's right. And he looked at me. I think he thought I was drunk.
I wish that was me. So jealous of you. Do you have any tips for us?
Yeah, get a Spanish partner like you, and only speak Spanish. When I met my wife, she was learning English, but she knew as much as I knew Spanish. So our first date was on the beach in the summer, and we both took a dictionary with us, and that's how it started, But I think really speaking it all day, every day. I mean, my wife would be the first to tell you that my vocabulary, my verbs is awful. The past, present, future, masculine and feminine. I always find it hard to understand how a table can be masculine or feminine. It's a table, but there you go.
Impossible. But yeah, I would say that's the number one biggest problem really, is the language. I think if you can speak the language, there's no problem at all, really, is it? But in saying that, I don't want to put people off, because I think you can go to more expat areas where they have things set up for English speakers, don't they? In the tourist, I know because my husband's family are from Barcelona, so we go to Barcelona all the time, and I know I don't struggle as much in Barcelona as I do in Melilla. So that's why I was saying it's important to do your research really on where you're going to live, because if you are in an area with more different nationalities, you can get by a lot easier, I think.
Yeah. When I first came here, I joined the walking club, and I was married before, but when I was divorced, I was here on my own for a while, and I joined the walking club, a Spanish walking club, and we used to go out. And it was funny because before I joined the walking club, I went to this village near the coast here, not far from where I am, a beautiful little village. And after the walk, we stopped and had lunch in the square, and it was only a little small village square, not many foreigners as far as English go. And we sat down at a big table spread with all the tapas and everything. It was brilliant. And I was sitting there. I was the only English one there, and we were all talking in Spanish. My Spanish then wasn't very good. And I saw an English couple walk by, husband and wife with a baby in a pushchair, pushed their baby in the pram coming by. And I saw the guy tap the woman on the shoulder and said, look at all them Spanish. They know how to live, don't they? And I felt really good that they thought that, I was part of it. Yeah. And it's funny because when you start to speak Spanish, you do see a different side of it, and you can integrate with the Spanish people. And before I was with a group of people like and Spanish friends, I didn't know what tapas to order. I didn't know that you could have a spread for the raciones, as they call it, which is a little bit bigger than a tapa, but you pay a bit more for it, but it's not a main course. And that's how the Spanish eat. And it's more economical, and it's more variety of food in one sitting, rather than just order a plate of egg and chips or something,
Yeah, so, and if you go, with my husband, we'll never go in the tourist places. In Barcelona, we'll go around the back. If you just go a couple of streets back from the beach, you can get a much better deal, can't you? But it's like with the churros, I didn't know about porros, the big. You have to be careful because I think the other word's marijuana, isn't it? So is it porros? Porros is marijuana. My husband says porros is marijuana, and porras are the big fat churros. Yeah. And I didn't know there was different sorts of churros and things. So yeah, when you go out with the Spanish, and we only mix, obviously it's only really Spanish here. I have met another expat, but she's totally integrated. So like you, she speaks fluent Spanish. She's been here 15 years, but she's moved back now to the mainland Spain. So I do miss her a bit. But other than that, we only mix with Spanians. So I should be able to speak Spanish, really. But
you've got no excuse. No excuse.
No, it's terrible. It's embarrassing. It's getting embarrassing now, really.
Yeah. It's funny because when you have an English or a Spanish partner, you do see both sides of it, and you can have some funny things happen. Like we went to see my brother a couple of years ago, and my Spanish wife is always confused because the British people don't kiss on the cheek like they do here, or they don't so much now, but you know, kiss on the cheek. And so my brother was standing outside his house. We had been to the shops and we were walking back, and I could see him outside the house, and he was talking to his neighbour, and my wife was getting all panicking. She said, "What do I say to the neighbour?" And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "How do I greet him? You know, do I kiss him?" I went, "No, you don't kiss him. He's the neighbour." I said, "Just say hello. You know, that's it. That's enough. Don't shake his hand or anything. Just say hello." And, you know, my brother introduced you or whatever. So she was going, okay. And she was practicing. At that time, she didn't speak all that good of Spanish, English. So we walked up to the neighbour. My brother said, "This is my neighbour." And my wife kissed him on both sides of the cheek and said, "I love you." She got so confused, and we both looked at her, and the neighbour looked at her, and she went, "Oh no, sorry, I'm sorry. I meant to say something else."
And it's funny because when we walk along the street, my husband sees all his friends from the school, and they don't say hello. They go hasta luego.
Yeah.
They just walk along going hasta luego, hasta luego. And I said, "But you're not going to see them later. Why don't you just say hello?"
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, you just don't say that. You don't. They don't greet in that way when they're walking along the street. You know, when you're just passing someone. And in England, you go hi, wouldn't you? Oh, hi."
Yeah.
But in
This
Spain,
is something
well,
I had with my
definitely
wife
here
a
in
little while
Melilla, they
ago.
go hasta luego, hasta luego.
In my wife's village, I mean, it's a little village up in the mountains, and there's only one other person I know English that lives there, and he's sort of a bit of a recluse. And when the Spanish people are walking past in the street, they say adios, adios. You know, when they're coming towards you. Now, it's like goodbye when they're coming towards you. And I always say to my wife, or as you say, they say luego, which means cut off later on. And I say, but they say adios. Shouldn't they say hello? And then as they walk past, they say adios, you know, goodbye.
Yeah.
No. So as soon as you see somebody walking towards you, before they actually arrive towards you, you say adios.
Or they say buenas. As they walk along, don't they? Buenas. And I said to my husband, "Should I say that then? Should I say buenas, or should I say hello, or should..." He went, "Oh no, don't say buenas." And I said, "Why not?" And he said, "Well, because it's not something that you would say." And I was thinking, so it's quite difficult, isn't it, to understand what you're supposed to say.
See, I mean, my friends here, they say buenas or bueno. Buenos cut for buenos dias or buenas tardes, but they, like here in Elmore, it's very bad. They cut all the S's off the word. So I got a friend here, and we used to go rock climbing, and I'd known him for about 3 or 4 months, and his name is Oscar, and I'd always, all their friends had called him Oka, and I, when somebody said one day Oka, I'm going, Oka, Oscar. It's Oscar, not Oka, you know. So it's like every time they cut the S off. So it's very, very difficult here in this part of Spain. But learning Spanish, it does open up opportunities for you, as well as saves you money and not having to pay people to help you. And you know, really, I mean, I know some English people here and they say, "Oh, my Spanish is quite." I don't think that my Spanish is brilliant by a long way, but you know, if you can have a conversation on a telephone with somebody and understand what they're saying, I think that's a pretty good standard to be able to speak Spanish. Because
or like I said, be aware and pick very carefully where you live, but also be aware that, you know, the different regions, like in Barcelona, a lot of things are said in Catalan, because when we go to Barcelona, we you know, we're on the metro or something and they're doing an announcement, it's all in Catalan. And so you could learn a bit of Spanish and then you end up in Barcelona and it's all in Catalan. So you need to you do need to really research your area and see, because you could end up with the 2 languages going on, the Spanish, the Catalan, and then it gets quite, I know a lot of people, expats that live in Valencia, they've got the Valenciano, haven't they, which is the same as Catalan. But
I went up that way to Barcelona a couple of years ago, and on the border there, and I was ordering some, and the guy was talking to me in English, and I said, "Oh, I speak Spanish. Do you speak Spanish?" He went, "No, Catalan." I went, "Oh, sorry."
My husband's got a very, very good friend who lives in Oxford, and he speaks fluent Spanish, And he went to Barcelona, and he said he may as well have not known anything. He said he got there, and he said everything was in Catalan. So he said he was struggling, even though he was fluent in Spanish.
Yeah,
So you have to be aware of these things, really, and where you're picking where you
learning
live.
the language and research. And this is what I say in the group. Often in the group, I tell people you've got to do research and more research and make lists on places and travel around to see these places, because probably like where you are in the winter months, I always say to people, if you like somewhere, you really want to thinking about moving there, go there in the winter, because in the summer, we all know it's lovely in the summer, but what's it like in the winter? Like where you are, the temperatures are way different in the winter, and it's probably a lot quieter in the winter than in the summer.
Well, it's not too bad because it's not really a tourist place, so it's about the same really all year round, because it's just a working city. But like I said, I would definitely I wouldn't recommend people live here. Obviously we live here, my husband teaches here in the school, but it's quite, unless you quite want to live in quite an isolated place, because you have to get the plane or the boat everywhere you want to go. Sure. Even and the border's closed. We're not even sure at the moment if the border's going to reopen. I mean, there seems to be a little bit of a spat going on between Morocco and Spain at the moment, so there's no word, and so it does feel like an island. And for some people, they like that sort of life, living in a very, very small community, but it can be quite isolating. So but definitely to come for a visit, a long weekend is ideal in Melilla. I would recommend everybody come. It's so interesting, and if anybody comes and they want to look us up, I'm more than happy to meet people. So is my husband, and show people around. It's a great place, and of course it's an interesting place because you've got the border with Morocco, you've got the fence, and it's all very interesting. We've also got a SETI refugee camp here. I think in the past that's what's put a lot of people off and thought, it's going to be trouble there or whatever, but there really isn't, and it's such a lovely place, and the people are so friendly here, so lovely.
Well, I'm sure that many people in the group now have got an eye opener on that part of Spain, or North Africa, as I should call it. And I'm sure if they come over there, that they can meet up with you, because you're in the group, so they can come and connect with you if they've got any more questions.
Obviously, lots of people don't want to meet people, but if anybody wants to meet up, or they want to know anything about Melilla, or my husband's good at guided. He should have been a tour guide, my husband. When a lot of our friends and my family have been to Barcelona, he meets up, he takes them all around Barcelona because he knows it really well. So he's really happy to show people around and help people out.
So Nicky, you've been in the group for about nearly 2 years now, I see. So you've obviously got some information from the group, some tips and information from there. So it has been helpful to you, is that correct?
Yeah, it has. It's been really helpful, and it makes me feel connected, because, like I said, sometimes it has felt quite isolating living in Melilla, because I don't speak the language, and there's not many expats here. So I joined the group so I could sort of communicate with other people, and also it's helped me a lot, especially when we went through the transition with the Brexit. Because I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't have known what I've got to do with the Thai card, the driving license. I got all that information from the groups. I wouldn't have known. I'm just stuck out here on my own. Nobody's going to ring me up and say, oh, by the way, you need to do this. And so it's been absolutely brilliant. And in fact, a lot of times I tell my husband what's going on, because we learn things in the group that you wouldn't know. Yeah.
Well, as people know, as members know, I've got quite good contacts here. When my wife grew up in her village, we're very friendly with the chief of police, and who she went to school with, and the mayor who was in her class. So we're on good terms with them, and also my friend Alejandro, who's the British consulate in Almeria, so I get all my info and tips from him. So that's why really I started the Facebook group, to help other people and update the information as I get it. And if there's something new comes on the news or whatever, I can just send a WhatsApp to Alejandro and say, "Oh, have you heard about this? What's this?" And often people say, "Oh, you have to do this and you have to do that now in the group," and that doesn't sound
and
right.
I wish I'd have joined the group earlier. I mean, I never even thought about joining a group like this. It was only because we were in Melilla and my husband was at work and I didn't know anyone and I was a bit lonely. And I started looking online for groups in Melilla to see, and I couldn't find any. And then it progressed to finding expat groups in Spain. And I thought, well, I'll join these, and it's been absolutely wonderful. If I hadn't, like I said, I wouldn't have known what to do with the Brexit transition, the Thai cars, the driving license, everything without.
That's right. Yeah.
The expat.
Well,
And
we all help each other, don't we?
Yeah, I think it's been wonderful. I bet you know yourself, because when you came to Spain all those years ago, you didn't have such a group probably like that.
There wasn't Facebook or the internet 19 years ago. I mean, I had a basic computer back then, and it wasn't the internet and the connections like there is now, and the information that gets out faster in the Facebook groups than it does on the national television now. And to be honest, I see several different posts from people, and I'll go and look it up myself. So it gives you something as a guide to go and check up on yourself and see if this is true. So the information travels much faster on social media now, I think. So that's one of the reasons why the group and my blogs and the podcast and other things. And also doing these shows like this with you. Sorry, doing these shows like this with you, I often try and give a different idea for people, like, you're part of Spain and where people are living, because not everyone wants to live near the beach like I am, and in the full blare of the sunshine in the middle of the summer here when it goes over 100 degrees and probably even hotter where you are. But we have different people here which people can connect with and see how they're living, and it's interesting for them to maybe think, well, maybe I'll try that place, so that's the whole point of these posts, really.
Yeah, and like I say, during the pandemic, we didn't really know the rules, and I was telling my husband what the rules were, because he, from these groups, so it was all translated, and it was so helpful to be. I would definitely recommend the language and joining these expat groups. I mean, a lot of people probably think, oh, I just don't want to be in with all the expats, but it really is a good idea, I think. So you know what's going on.
Okay, brilliant. Well, thanks very much, Nicky, for sharing your views and thoughts with us. And we look forward to seeing some more of your posts of where you live in the group in the very near future. Thanks very much for joining us.
Okay, David, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Cheers, Nicky. Bye.
Bye.